Merry frickin' Homesteader Christmas. You guys are in for a real treat. The mean birds are only about 5 weeks old right now, which means they're not ready to process. However, I had a rooster that needed to go to freezer camp, and I filmed the entire thing so that you guys can see the processing process before the meat bird project's even close to being done. Let's go butcher a rooster. We're gonna use the kill cone method. There's lots of different methods to cull chicken. I personally like the cone method. We're gonna put him in the cone. We're gonna let him rest in there for about a minute so a lot of the blood rushes to his head so he bleeds out fast. I'm going to make a clean slit to the artery in his neck. That's gonna allow all the blood to rush out of his body and to make sure there's no suffering at all. One other thing to note is that when you're doing this, you're gonna wanna bleed into something like a bucket. I like to put a plastic bag in it because at the end, you're gonna wanna dispose of all of the blood and guts. Otherwise, you're leaving open ends for predators to come onto your property. I'm gonna bag all of this and then we're gonna put it into a fire and get rid of it. Let's go, Bill Clinton. Your time has come. You wanna make sure that you have a very, very sharp knife to do this because you don't wanna be slitting a whole bunch of times or sawing on your rooster's neck because that's gonna cause suffering. So sharp and good quality knife is essential. So first thing you're gonna do is we're gonna stretch this neck out so that we can see what we're working with. This guy's got a lot of feathers and we can't really see where that artery is. So what I like to do is I like to just pluck some of these feathers out. I know, buddy, I'm sorry. It's gonna be quick, I promise. We're going right under the chin bone. There's a large artery that runs right here. You can see it. We're gonna slit as deep as we can into it. Make sure that your finger on the other side of the head is out of the way. From experience, I almost lost my finger last summer and I still don't have nerves back in. I can't have no feeling. Make sure your finger's out of the way. You only want to do this one time. The slitting of that artery alone is going to cause them to pass out because of the fast loss of blood. So the kicking that you see in the cone, completely normal. It's nerves at the end of life and it is 100% completely normal. I'm going to keep working at this head to get it off because we need it off to butcher anyways. Well, he bleeds out. It's going to take him about 1 minute to 2 minutes to bleed out. Keeping the skin on this bird, I'm going to hand pluck this guy. The first thing that you want to do before you pluck, whether you're using a plucking machine or using your hands, is you got to scald them. Every time 150 right on the dot. I like to use a turkey fryer, super easy, comes with a pot. We're going to stick this guy in here. We're going to dunk him up. We don't want him to just sit in there because we don't want the meat to cook. So we're going to dunk him up and down, make sure that hot water gets into the follicles of the feathers, which is going to soften them and make them easy to come out. It's going to take somewhere between 1 minute to 2 minutes. The way to check is that we're going to pull on the wing feathers and see if they come out easily. And if they do, then he's ready to go. This water's hot. So I'm going to start checking those wing feathers. That one pulled out pretty easy, but most of these are not. So we're going to go just a little bit longer. That one came out. Those are coming out pretty easy. I'm going to check. Yeah, we're good to go. To the plucking table. And as you can see, they wipe off just like butter. You do have to do a little bit of pulling, but for the most part, they wipe off. Out. I like to start on the belly and get in between these legs because as the water cools, the feathers get a little bit more sticky. So I like to get these really hard parts first. I'm gonna start pulling on the wings. Pluckers are really great tools, especially if you have like a team, a butchering team where you can do 4 or 5 birds at a time. And they make it a lot faster and a lot easier. However, for me, I'm a one-person show and the plucker is going to take me just as long, if not longer. You saw how fast this bird went. And so I'm just going to stick with the hand plucking and not make that investment until I'm at a place where I can have more than one person here to help me pluck, do this process. But for now, this works great. Water also helps when you're plucking to get those last little stubborn feathers. I like to keep my work area very clean. We're trying to keep away any disease. And sometimes you'll get these onesies and twosies in here. I don't worry about them too much because you can pluck those out when you go to cook them or wrap them. So there we go. For the gutting process, I like to have a separate knife because this knife is going to get very dull by the end of this process because you're cutting through lots of skin. I usually will have 2 or 3 of these, but we're only doing 1 today, so just 1. We're going to start out, we are going to make a small incision right here. We're going to pull this skin away, make a small incision. Another thing to remember, before you butcher a bird, you want it to have it fasted from food and water for at least 12 hours because that way their gut's not filled with poop and their crop's not filled with food. I did not do that this morning because this was on a whim, so we're going to have to be very careful not. So we're just making a small incision. The bow lives just under there. You can see the buttholes right here. So he is an older chicken, and so the skin is a lot thicker, which makes it easier. On the younger chickens, this punctures right through. So I'm just kind of getting this away so I can see what I'm working with. You can see this fascia in here. That's the next part we're going to have to break so that we can get to the organs. So see, now this fascia is what we want. I can see the bow right there. So I'm just, once the fascia's got a nick in it, it's really easy to rip. I'm staying real close to that breastbone where the tip of the breast is because it's safe, and I know that that's just bone up there. I just must have lied to you guys because the fascia is obviously not that easy, but again, an older chicken. And then you're gonna take your nice little claw hand, stick it in there and start just clawing. Make sure you don't puncture with your fingernails, but you're gonna just start detaching from the bone these organs, and we're gonna just start pulling them out. Is that gross? There's a testy. This guy was a big boy. Sometimes I've seen him only be like that big. These are intestines. You've got the heart.
Look at that. A heart?
This is his heart.
Heart?
When they say you have a chicken heart, that's what they mean. All right, so I've got most of these organs. The lungs are still in there, but I got most of them pulled out. They're still attached down here at the bowel, so let's go ahead and get the bowel off so we can not worry about puncturing that anymore. We also have to take off what's called their preen. So we're gonna cut just above that. See in there? You can see where the tailbone is disconnected from. And then we're just gonna, again, you're gonna have to be careful of that bow. So we're just gonna continue cutting down. All right, guts are. We're gonna rinse as much blood off as we can because once this stuff dries, it really starts to cake on. So we just wanna get rid of it as much as we can. I'm gonna reach in here, and the lungs live between the ribs. They're anchored onto them, so you have to just kind of scoop your fingers in between. You can feel them. I'll show you what they're this real spongy material. So you just scoop them out with your fingers. They usually don't come out in one go, so. Next part we're gonna take off is the feet. So there's a little joint that lives right in here. It cracks open very easily. Just apply some force. That one was much easier, probably because we slit the skin first and didn't break the leg. That's how it was supposed to go. Next thing I'm gonna take off is the neck. First thing we gotta do is we've gotta slit this so we can get access to where the crop in the throat is. So again, light movements because we're not wanting to break any of this open. I like to rip the skin open. You've got fascia in there again that you gotta rip off. If you can't rip it, use your knife. And then you've got these two tubes in here. One goes to the stomach, or one goes to the crop. Can't remember what the other one goes to. But we want to get these detached from the body. Next, I'm going to start trimming the rest of the skin off the neck because we are going to also save the neck for our broth. So I just like to trim around right here until it gets to a point like that. I just busted open the crop, and this is why you fast your bird. Because now we've got to get all of that out before we can continue. Okay, now we want to disconnect the neck. I like to cut the fascia away from the breast. So I've got those tubes pulled because they're connected to the inside. And I just start kind of ranking on this neck and trying to get it broken a little bit. And I'm just going to start cutting. There's cartilage in between the vertebrae. And so that's where you want to cut, is in between those vertebrae. Don't cut the bone. We'll save that for later. Now I just got to get these tubes disconnected. We are ready to go. There you have it.